Federal government determined to boost non-oil exports, says Minister of Finance. Pensioners to get consequential adjustments on benefits from May 2021 along with arrears. Central Bank of Nigeria sacks board of First Bank and FBN Holdings. Recall Adedun Tan and AK as managing directors. This is Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Now let's begin the business of the day with export. The federal government is committed to the expansion of the non-oil sector and diversification of the economy despite challenges posed to export by the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed said this while inaugurating the new non-executive members of the board of the Nigeria Export-Import Bank, NEXIM, in Abuja. She re-emphasized federal government's commitment to enhance funding intervention to boost productivity and exports from critical sectors like manufacturing and agriculture.
Therefore, the overriding objective of a government in setting up NEXIM is the desire to make the bank a significant player in the Nigerian non-oil export sector and other economic revitalization programs as encapsulated in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan and its successor National Development Plan, the Nigeria Agenda 2050.
Managing Director of the NEXIM Bank, Abba Bello, assures that promoting and attracting the private sector to achieve increased exports is top on the agenda.
Of the government through the Federal Ministry of Finance, we are going to take NEXIM to the next level with such experienced hands coming onto our board, and we commit the deliverables that you have mentioned, and also what our statutory role is.
Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria has approved the immediate removal of all directors of First Bank Limited and First Bank Holdings PLC, as well as the appointment of new directors. At the briefing in Abuja, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said that the decision was informed by reports that the Board of Directors of First Bank Limited, an important bank under regulatory forbearance regime, had effected sweeping changes in executive management without engaging or prior notice to the regulatory authorities.
Where CBN has no forbearance or any form of intervention, has the right to make any changes in its management, and after such changes, apply to the Central Bank of Nigeria for its approval and no objection. There is therefore no cause for panic amongst the banking public or important stakeholders, given that the actions being taken by the CBN are meant to strengthen the bank and position it. The CBN hereby reassures the depositors, creditors, and other stakeholders of the bank of its commitment to ensure the stability of the financial system.
Bank therefore approved the appointment of Remi Baba Lola and Tunde Hassan Odukale to chair First Bank Holdings Limited and First Bank Limited. Nigeria is prioritizing innovation and technology investments in agriculture so as to transform the sector by attracting young people and also scaling up productivity. Vice President Yomir Shibajo stated this in his remarks delivered virtually at the 2021 high-level dialogue on Feeding Africa.
The plan also is the establishment of about 142 privately owned agro-processing service centers, which will also be established to address post-harvest losses, path to market and supply chain challenges, and train about 100,000 new extension agents to address farmer advisory service delivery challenges with new technology and practice adoption.
The African Development Bank, AFDB, forecasts that the demand and consumption of rice in Africa will hit 34 million metric tons in the next 4 years. The bank says as at 2015, Africans were consuming estimated 26 million metric tons of parboiled rice annually, and 13% of the 26 million tons are imported. Africa will therefore need to produce approximately 13 million additional tons of rice per annum to meet the demand of her growing population, as the bank observed. Increasing rice production to meet the demand, AFDB estimates that the continent will need to spend $5.5 billion on production and processing. Doing this, it is expected to improve the livelihood of at least 3 million producers.
The African Development Bank will invest $10.4 billion over the next 5 years to boost the development of agricultural value chains and food production in Africa. The bank will also invest $1.6 billion in the next 5 years to support 10 strategic crops to drive food security. We will do our part, but greater amounts of resources are needed to feed Africa.
The whole calorie intake, 1/3 of it is imported annual basis. And out of the 46 billion of imports, the 10 critical staple foods are 2/3 of those imports. So while that looks like a big challenge, we see it as an opportunity, turning that into an opportunity. But that opportunity can only work if our research and development centers are really galvanized.
How do we do the right research and development, which is where the IFAD initiatives are so important, and the idea of setting up a big research and development center in Africa also absolutely vital. And then finally, how do we make sure that government is properly organized in order to take advantage of these opportunities?
And now the main business of the day, promoting local technologies for development, is our focus today. And I am being joined by Dr. Mohammed Jibrin. He is the Director General of the National Board for Technology Incubation. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there seems to be a technological gap in the production of goods and services. How do we harness local technology for development of the country?
Number one, when you talk of technology, you have to look at a number of things. Number one, the investment in technology. Number two, the expertise. Number three, the commitment. Number four, the quality of entrepreneurs. Number five, the machinery and other equipment. You need to look at even the production of the goods and services so that all stakeholders will come to work together. In this case, you need to involve the academia, being the knowledge providers. You need to look at the government, being the policy makers, because it is always the government that is giving the policy direction. And you need to look at the entrepreneurs, being the producers of the goods and services. You need to look at the available opportunities. I'm referring to the raw materials and other things that can be harnessed. You need to look at the identification of the intellects around. Apart from the academia, you have local people that are intellects. They have the capacity. But in most cases, they need to be supported with academic inputs. For example, if you have somebody that has a very good initiative, he can create this, he can create this. But there has to be design. Design is the application of the theories based on the parameters on ground for the purpose of estimating the actions that will take place and the corresponding reactions.
Okay,
so
those things that you listed, do we have them?
Yeah. These are the things that we keep promoting. We keep promoting. We keep promoting. You can look at what is happening in the rice industry now. For example, you can see we have almost conquered in the country. Mr. President is conquering because a lot of people, majority of the populace, are now having access to the local rice. And when you look at it, you have a lot of local technologies that are being applied apart from the mechanized technologies. For example, how many combined harvesters do we have in the country? Discover that it is the local people, the local farmers that are being supported by the government always are forming the major producing group. When you look at the what's the name? What do I call it? The cluster of rice producers, cluster of rice processors, cluster of those packaging rice, cluster of those marketing rice. You discover that the local rice is filling the supermarkets.
Okay, one problem we have is the issue of machinery now.
Yes.
Most of the times you find our producers going in to change our money for hard currencies, I mean the dollar, to import machineries from outside. Now, how do we use technology incubation center to bridge this gap?
See, that is the problem. We have the producers, we have the people from the academia, we have the fabricators. The fabricators need to be supported by the academia, but unfortunately...
Are they being supported?
Yeah, but not to the extent that we expect. More is required. Government is trying their best. This time around, we need to involve the private sector. For example, if I am a fabricator, fabricating an agro-allied processing machine, you are somebody from the academia. As a professor of agricultural mechanization, you are supposed to come and be guiding me, supervising. Or even the machines that have already been fabricated, taken to the market, taken to the field, and they are operating, you are supposed to find out what is happening. What is happening? Let me know the challenges. Maybe is it issue associated to dynamic balancing? Is it issue associated with a torque that is capable of dismembering or reducing the lifespan? Is it an unwanted noise? Is it maybe in the process of processing rice? Maybe it's not destoning properly, it's not polishing properly. You from the academia that has done research, that has made a lot of, that have accessed a lot of reference literatures are supposed to come to see what is happening. But for that one to happen, you need to be supported by your academic institution or the authorities, and this one is being done for now, but what is being done is not enough. I assure you, if more funds are channeled, especially towards supporting the academia, to see the innovations that are taking place in the technology incubation centers, I think it's only going to be a question of a very, very short time.
Okay, is there a working document for to promote indigenous technologies?
Of course, we have developed the working documents. We have developed, and we keep liaising with the academia. But what I am saying is not enough. For example, in the technology incubation centers, we have what we call technical advisory committee, comprising of stakeholders from within the locality. We have technology incubation centers, each of the state of the federation. The technical advisory committee is represented by people from the government, that is the permanent secretary in charge of the Ministry of Science and Technology or Commerce and Industry chairs. You get people from the academia. You get people from the regulatory agencies like Standard Organization of Nigeria, like NAFDAC, Investment Promotion Council, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. They come to sit down periodically to assess, afresh and reaffresh, advise on the ways forward. Indeed, I'm happy to mention at this juncture that various state governments, or most of the state governments, are supporting this program. But it's unfortunate that the limited resources are not covering the demand.
Okay, what role can technology play in the ongoing diversification effort of the government?
Well, indeed, you have a lot of issues technology can play. There is the issue of jobs creation, because this is the thorniest issue in the country right now. I'm sure in your house you have an unemployed relation. Everybody is having unemployed relation. You have to teach technology skills so that these people, our young ones, will learn in such a way that by the time they come out after the training, they will become experts in that place. They will become experts. It's not a question of training where after the training 48 hours you have forgotten what you have learned. We have the issue of even what we call community incubation. This for women and other youth that may not necessarily be educated. Beneficiaries of such are taught how to utilize the available raw materials using within their domain. For example, around Abuja, you see a lot of yam, a lot of tubers, a lot of so many things, but only being sold or perishables that spoil after hours from date of harvest. So those women are taught normally how to, apart from the production, it will be processing. Apart from the processing, it will be packaging, marketing. And now I can confidently say we have a lot of such kind of products in the supermarkets. Even in Abuja, so major supermarkets, we have such kind of products that are products of community incubation.
Okay, what about technology transfers?
Technology transfer is a process whereby technology moves from point A to B.
What are we doing towards that? How are we taking advantage of that, considering our bilateral relations?
We are doing it at a very good level. The only thing is between the country here and the foreign countries, it is a bit difficult because they are being careful most of the time. By the time they want to transfer, they will transfer what they have already passed. So you will end up following. They will not even transfer what is even very, very relevant as at the present time. That is the reason why government must always be encouraging the community from the academia.
Okay,
with support, so that we can rank at par with the developed nations.
Okay, we've seen a lot of inventions and innovations in Nigeria.
Yes.
How do we get the private sector to invest, and how do we even, to the point of even selling our own technology?
Indeed, with the federal government is really trying in that case. For example, the Honorable Minister for Science and Technology, the Honorable Ministers, they have what we call the Presidential Standing Committee on Inventions and Innovations. That fund is not a token, but enough to kickstart a project, to convert into design, idea into reality, to take that idea to the prototype, and from the prototype to the market.
I'm afraid we'll have to put a hold to the conversation. Well, thank you very much, Mohammed Jibril, DG National Board for Technology Incubation.
Thank you very much.
Now, moving on, pensioners in Nigeria will begin to smile again following the conclusion of plans to effect President Muhammadu Buhari's directive for the implementation of consequential adjustment on pension benefits. Executive Secretary of Pension Transition Arrangement Directorate, PTAD, Dr. Chioma Ijekeme, say the President's decision follows the implementation of a new minimum wage in 2019 and encourage pensioners to be wary of fraudsters.
The arrears will take effect from April 2019, and PTAD will also commence payment of the arrears from May 2021. It will be recalled that on the 22nd of April 2021, I issued a press release to inform the general public of the sincerity of Mr. President to implement the consequential adjustment on the pension benefits.
The National Pension Commission has ordered recapitalization in the pension industry. The Commission has raised the shareholders' funds of pension fund administrators from 1 billion naira to 5 billion naira. Pension fund administrators revealed that the Commission in a circular gave them 1 year to comply with the new capital requirement. The Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption is holding conversations on the need to develop legal framework and policies to regulate cryptocurrency and other blockchain technology by considering the global trends, opportunities and risk. Comfort Amadou completes this report.
The Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption is holding conversations on the need to develop legal framework and policies to regulate cryptocurrency and other blockchain technology by considering the global trends, opportunities and risks, taking into account issues of consumer protection, tax evasion, money laundering, capital flight, and financing of terrorism via blockchain technology. Stakeholders at the virtual meeting unanimously agreed that Nigeria has to develop a framework for proper adoption of virtual assets.
Citizens are using it. They are eking out a living. They are engaged. They are making money. And somehow they are contributing to the national economy. Therefore, we should pay attention because of that reason. And while it is being operated, we should pay attention so that we can know
the need for transparency, accountability, particularly in the conduct of public officers, as well as for politically exposed personalities, is something that requires serious checks and balance.
Cryptocurrency is just one out of the many applications of blockchain technology, which we see a lot of opportunities for, particularly for Nigeria, if we want to leapfrog into the digital economy that we're actually canvassing on a daily basis. So what we have done is we have actually issued a blockchain adoption framework and strategy, which is already in a draft stage now, and we're already engaging stakeholders.
Global market update is next with Ineka Oko.
Asia markets struggled for gains Friday despite positive finish stateside in the previous session. The Japanese market returned to trade after being closed Thursday for a holiday. The benchmark Nikkei 225 fell 0.83% at 28,812.63. Shanghai Composite dropped 0.81%. And Hang Seng Index declined 1.97% in late afternoon trade. In Europe, stocks opened slightly higher on Friday morning, with investors' attention turning to inflation and economic growth data, as well as corporate earnings. Germany's DAX rose 0.48%. London FTSE 0.26% and CAC 40 of France 0.03%. Contracts tied to the major U.S. stock indices slipped early Friday as investors pondered over a flurry of earnings results and a robust profit beat from e-commerce giant Amazon. The S&P 500 fell 0.4%. The Dow shed 76 points, while Nasdaq Composite dropped about 0.4%. In Africa, South Africa's main stock index dropped for a second day, slipping 0.23% in early trading. Tunisia's Tunidex, on the other hand, gained 0.14%, while Namibia overall index underperformed, slipping 0.46% at 1,391.22 basis points. That's global markets. I'm Neka Oku. It's over to you, Musa.
Thank you, Neka. That wraps this edition of Business Express. The last for April 2021. Remember to keep in touch with us. So do send in your comments, observations and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now and the hashtag is BizX. Business Express returns on Monday at 3 p.m. Be safe out there. I am Musa Abubakar. Enjoy the weekend.